should probably hotkey that button. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, and variations thereof, welcome to the Selectives Lorecast, a casual Elder Scrolls podcast. My name is Rotten Deadite, for the purposes of the internet, and with me today are...
I am James, also known as Aramithius.
And I'm Andrew, also known as the White Guar, for purposes of ego death.
Yeah. Yeah. And, actually, that's a... Our online... is your moniker online a push towards ego death? A push towards ego self-separation? Is it?
It's ego creation, surely, because you're creating a persona and then living that out. Because Aramithius is not like me offline.
Rotten Deadite's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about Mephala because it's alphabetical order, but also honestly things have felt a little bit, fucky recently.
Oh,
Ucky wucky.
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting if you're watching this in the archive, we're getting closer to the U.S. election, and every day seems like another fucking catastrophe. So.
yeah.
Not my Ruth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, but that's real life, and we don't talk about that shit here.
Sex and death. Come on.
Sex and death. Let's talk about sex and murder.
Bugs and fungus.
Yeah. So Mephala's the next Daedric Prince in line. She's usually a she, which is, again, as we mentioned frequently when talking about Daedra, not a good assumption to make.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually Mephala's depicted as a she. Boethia seems to be hitting about 50-50, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that in the Boethia cast.
Well, I think Boethia more often shows up as female. The only time I can ever think of where Boethia was male was in Morrowind.
Yeah, no, in doesn't Boethia show up as a male in ESO at some point? Maybe only in statue form.
Possibly.
I'm not sure. I don't think we've done a whole lot with Boethia yet.
We can always do more, but that's true for everything.
So. Yes. No, Boethia. No, Mephala is. Although Mephala is also, depending on which culture you're looking at, definitely not female. Because if we're going along with her as an anticipation of Vivek, she's one of the ones that corresponds properly with the genders. Because Azura and Sothasil flip genders, and at least according to the Dunmer, and Boethia and Almalexia flip genders. But Mephala and Vivek are both flexible sex. I don't know what the term they use.
Fluid?
They use it. It gets used. Is it mutable or something? I don't want to say intersex necessarily.
No, that's not right.
But
androgynous?
No, that's a different thing too.
Or androgyne or something.
I don't know.
It's some obscure word where she's implied to be both.
No, it's not. I don't think it's androgyne.
I'll look it up. I'll be with you in a second.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I totally derailed you.
Yeah, well, yeah. But, welcome to the party, pal. At least you were still talking about Elder Scrolls. Yes. Mephala is the anticipation of Vivek. That kind of created some interesting themes for Vivek when when the various writers were writing Vivek for Morrowind. That meant that Vivek had to take on certain aspects to fit the role better. That I would certainly say that Kirkbride leaned into it. And so Mephala, but unfortunately Mephala is one of those Daedric princes whose realm sort of, not dimension, but like whose concept sort of gets blurry and mixes it in with other people, with other Daedric princes. So, for example, if when some people in ESO especially will talk about Mephala when they talk about like the web spinner and or other titles and so on, there's sort of like implying a role that sounds a lot like what's attributed to Boethia as the Prince of Plots, or for that matter, Molag Bal is the Prince of Schemes. But it definitely does seem as though Mephala is way, way, way harder. Just goes really hard in the paint for plot lines, for intrigue, and And the reason why I say that is because of the spider or the web motif that they use for her, of this idea of connecting disparate things together. And thank you, Baka. And getting a web of intrigue put together. They do seem to like that idea. My personal, like, just from sort of casually consuming Mephala lore, is that Mephala seems to be very much as a good patron deity of thieves, or possibly even better, assassins.
Yeah, I was going to say thieves is nocturnal. But,
yeah, right. And that is, despite Vivek's own alignment to the thief archetype, I think most people will agree that Vivek doesn't seem to discuss or get involved with stealing so much as fucking murder.
He does say that he adores thieves, though.
Yeah, he does adore thieves, but again, that's part of that's the alignment. Again, I kind of think that Vivek's idiom, sort of a thief, is a little bit better, or a little bit easier to not better, but easier to cement. You know,
wasn't it implied that in Vec the Mortal's childhood that Z was forced to be a thief to survive while doing like prostitution or whatever?
Yeah. A gang leader, a thief, and a prostitute. Sort of a triple threat, if you will.
So I mean, just kind of the more. I mean, looking at that, you know, that the kind of the test trinity: warrior, mage, thief. I mean, Vivek and Mephala fall into that thief thing.
Well, she certainly seems to fit it better than the other two.
Yeah.
I guess maybe the mage, you could argue, because she is that's way more of a stretch than a thief. Thief is really easier to fit her to.
Yeah. One. Okay, go ahead. I have a thought I want to touch on, but go ahead.
Yeah, and although even defining her in that way is, I'm a little skeptical of, just simply because, or unless On Oblivion is wrong, which is entirely possible. I think it was that book that just says that Mephala's sphere is obscured to mortals. So instead of saying flat out she's sex and secrets, which is the moniker of now that she goes with now, or that the community goes with, Mephala was just, we really don't know what she's up to, which fits with. I think it fits with her in ESO better than in the other games, to be fair. But it's difficult to kind of square that with just the puppet master web spinner idea. So she's both solid and not at the same time, which is thoroughly appropriate, I think.
Well, so I'm going to get like a really tough question out of the way. They say that Mephala is associated with lies, sex, and secrets, or excuse me, murder, sex, and secrets, according to the quote that I'm reading literally at the top of that page. Murder, I get you. Secrets, I get you. Not a whole lot of sex.
True.
See, and I always figured that was a little more of a tantric thing. I mean, when you think of like, I mean, delving into like the Hinduism here a little bit. I mean, she kind of strikes me as someone who would write something akin to the what the fuck is that book called? The one with all the sexy poses.
Kama Sutra.
Yes.
Kama Sutra. Yes, she strikes me as one that would write that. But I mean, am I going off of the already ascribed connotations of sex with her, or is it a thematic thing I'm thinking of?
I don't know. If you want to get literary, at least there's the various associations that I've seen, is that if you want to start equating sex and death, it's there. I'm sure I remember hearing somewhere about orgasm and death being the same, being very similar in terms of
the French term,
the
petite mort.
Yeah. But I mean, like, who was it that pointed that out? I think it was Vermin Turkey pointed it out that I mean, in spite of M ratings, never get much beyond PG-13, especially when we go to sex, you know. And so, I mean, that may be why we don't see a whole lot of that. But something that I do think about making real world connections is, I mean, we have the trope in real life that we get kind of a sexy female assassin who uses her sex appeal to get close to her mark and then kills that mark.
Yeah, that feels Mephala-y.
Yeah, I mean, we even get the Black Widow, who very much fits that. You know, movies like Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence in it, same basic idea. They're always Russian. That's.
Yeah. Oh, and Doc Nightstone has pointed out about Mephala's concept art from Kirkbride, which, well.
That concept art.
Yeah.
Is that
concept art?
Is that even safe to show?
No, that's a manga toss, but like in a second. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, probably just
look that up on your own time. It involves weapons and parts of female anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
And male anatomy at the same time.
Oh, and male anatomy, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
so so one of the things that one of the things that dawned on me was, and get your bingo cards ready, she kind of reminds me, the idea of sex and murder collectively reminds me a little bit of the Bene Gesserit.
Yes.
Who are definitely kind of like, they actually have weaponized poisons that are delivered vaginally. And
I still got to finish Dune, but yeah.
I don't know if it's in the first book.
Really?
I don't know when they mentioned it, actually.
I mean, I did get a lot of those, you know, in the. I don't know, I'm maybe 3/5 of the way through the book right now.
Yeah, I was going to go along Bacchus' route and go with the Gom Jabbar.
Yeah.
Sort of thing for Mephala.
Put your finger in the box, young Vivek.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that fucking movie. It's going to do real bad because nobody's going to go see it in theaters, but I really, really want to see it when it gets pirated.
What's his name? Skarsgård, who plays Vladimir Harkonnen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, great choice.
Great choice. Yeah. I wasn't that big of a fan of the bodysuit they put him in, but I'm sure he's still going to be great. I mean, that's fine.
Well, he's an amazing actor.
I know. He's so good that he'll sell it anyway. But on your birthday, geez. That's the thing. Like, I'm sorry for derailing, but I don't care how good the movie is. I'm not going to go to a theater in this during this outbreak. I'm just not, especially not that we're about to hit the second wave with flu season. It's just not worth it. Yeah.
No, but Baron Harkonnen is a legitimate use of jiggle physics, so I will absolutely go along with that.
But the nice thing about so anytime you talk about Dune, because it's been a very heavily analyzed book, or series, I should say, a very heavily analyzed universe, it's worth it. Trust me, it is worth looking up dissenting opinions about Dune. It's really, really enlightening. There's a lot of very good political and social arguments about negative things that are that could be construed from Dune. One of my favorite ones is the idea of Paul Atreides as a white savior, that kind of thing. Yeah. There are arguments for that. There are arguments against that. They're all worth reading because they are all really well constructed. Well, I don't know I don't want to say all of them. They are often really well constructed, and they often reference books and philosophy and so on that are absolutely 100% worth reading. So you can kind of like secondary source that, or go to their primary sources and get some really good material to read that's incredibly enlightening. And I have to go do something with the dog.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. In other words, today is September 19th, and it is International Talk Like a Pirate Day. So if you go into a Krispy Kreme and you're dressed as a pirate, they will give you a full dozen Krispy Kremes.
That's interesting to know, but that again involves leaving the home.
Thoughts on, but yeah. The smoke did
Sweet
clear
merciful
today,
Jesus, I forgot entirely that was the case. I've been walking around the whole day talking like an idiot. I could be talking like a pirate.
How would you then connect Mephala to that idea? Because just going back to the Gom Jabbar and the Gom Jabbar as the test of the Bene Gesserit, that's again the idea of testing and initiation and so on. But I never really clocked Mephala as a testing god in any particular pantheon. So
yeah, she seems mostly interested in delivering service. Of like, I need this done. I'm going to pray to Mephala and get it done. More of a transactional god, to me at least.
Yeah.
Orientalism. Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, that was a very valid. Okay. Anyway, damn, it's really easy for me to talk about that shit.
Yes.
So. But in the interest of not getting completely derailed again on Dune, one of the things that I like about Mephala is that she served as the #1 sort of trainer, and to your point about Mephala as you know, taking on a testing role. She was the sort of like the prime educator of the Chimer after the formation of Valathi culture for ways of martial arts, sort of, but in a very sort of kind of what I guess you could call a intrigue kind of defense. Mephala is not the person you would go to if you want to learn martial arts from Mephala. You're not going to learn martial arts from Mephala so that you can go out onto a battlefield and defend your city with 1,000 other people. You're going to learn martial arts so that you can go and assassinate, the governor or something. It's like, whatever you learn, it's not going to be useful on a guards hate her. It's guerrilla warfare is exactly what it is, David. That's one of the things that I like about the Dunmer. Or early Valathi, Chimer culture, is the idea, like the way that so one of the things that I complain about all the time with the Dunmer is that they are basically an attempt to Dungeons and Dragons Dark Elves, right?
Yeah.
It's that was the primary goal that Kurt Kuhlman and Michael Kirkbride had when they were, well, it wasn't the primary goal, but it was a big goal that they had when they were writing lore and world building Morrowind, was that they wanted to try to drag the Dunmer farther away from D&D.
And if I recall, they got a lot of pushback from Julian LeFay.
Yeah, they got a lot of pushback from a number of devs, but Julian LeFay was definitely vociferous. But it was just, and that's because Julian LeFay and a lot of other people at Bethesda are big D&D fans for good fucking reason. It's a great,
yeah, absolutely.
And Mephala is one of those that is straight drow in several ways.
She's obviously she's obviously inspired by Lolth. And I mean even Drow society, which is matriarchal. And they're I hesitate to say promiscuous. I mean they just don't have taboos about sex,
right?
In Drow society, and so there's a lot of assassins that come out of Drow culture, and so I mean Lolth, Mephala, it's a really easy connection to make, and so I think when we get Mephala, and it's a little more ephemeral, because we get it's navigating the threads that you tug on the web here, someone dies over there, and so it's more of a metaphorical web than an actual web, but as we know, metaphor makes reality. So
especially in the Elder Scrolls universe. And that's kind of why that was one of the things that further served to separate the Chimer from the Altmer. Was this idea of the Altmer being very magic oriented, and you know, the high elf cliche of these super magical beings, and then the Dunmer going, you know, going the dark elf route of, you know, knives and leather armor and posing evocatively in shadows before, you know, leaping down into an unnecessarily erotic stance and and stabbing dudes in the back because, you know, intrinsically all concept artists are 14 and haven't grown up. And
that's how we end up with Power Girl.
Yeah. Well, oh god. No, it's symbolic. Jeez, how could you say that? It symbolizes her disappointment in Superman.
Isn't the story that the creator, like, in every iteration of her, made her boobs bigger and bigger until someone said something?
Yeah, he was waiting because he didn't want to make like this big boobed, you know, heroine, and so he's just like, I'm just gonna keep making them bigger and bigger until somebody says something, and nobody said anything.
Yeah.
And so the next thing he knows, this character goes live with these giant balloons under her shirt, and he's like, I can't fucking believe I have to do this now. And you know, well, he says he complained, but you know, couldn't have complained that much. You're drawing boobs for a living. I mean, come on. Could do worse.
So anyway, back to Mephala.
Yeah. And that's. And the idea of the Dunmer learning, or any, for that matter, any race learning directly their form of combat from a Daedric Prince is a big deal. The majority of cultures are going. The Red Guard, for example, learned an unstoppably excellent form of martial arts from not a Daedra?
Onto a 10?
We don't.
Or was it somebody else?
We don't know where the Red Guards got the Pancratus sword and where from, as far as I'm aware.
Well, not the Pancratus sword. I mean the
sword singing.
Yeah, the sword singing. They learned it from.
That'd be a Diagna and Onsi in some sort of combination.
Yeah.
So
the goddess of aberrant swordsmanship.
Yeah, and the idea being that this was a divine-inspired martial art. But I imagine that Mephala was literally running people through, you know, just a shitload of Chimer Velothi out in the middle of a dust field somewhere going, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, probably.
Someone needs to make...
Well, I got the kind of the idea that it was that Mephala's methods was necessary for the Chimer as they were. That being able to be involved in sex and secret murder, it's tools of intrigue which you need if you're going to stage a rebellion of some sort.
Yeah, and because the Chimer were the underdogs, definitely in almost every respect. They were a very small group of people at the beginning. The Velothi were a very small group of people. Not a huge subsection of Altmer had left. And they were literally traveling across some of the most harsh places in Tamriel, so I'm sure a lot of them died off. Yeah, you kind of have to do that guerrilla warfare kind of thing, you know. So a lot of it made sense. And I mean, when does Vivek's Golden Path start? Is what I'm getting at here. Was it inspired entirely by Vivek's prescience, or was it, you know, something that began way back when Boethia first tried to tell the truth to the Velothi? You know, I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not asking for an actual answer there. I'm just saying it's interesting to think about. Of like, you know, when did the Golden Path start? And
it's an interplay.
Your head's black, you shits. So that's an interesting thing. Why is Mephala called the Black Hands in the 36 Lessons?
Which sermon is that?
They were burned.
Which sermon is it? I don't fucking remember. What do I study? The 36 Lessons of Vivek? Come on.
Yeah.
It's Sermon 2.
Yeah,
where he's first referred to as the Black Hands. Then the sixth spirit appeared, the Black Hands of Mephala, who taught the Velothi at the beginning of days all the arts of sex and murder. Its burning heart melted the eyes of the Nechaman's wife and took the egg from her belly with 6 cutting strokes. The egg image, however, could see into what it had been before the ancient times when the earth still cooled and was not blinded.
So all the way back in Sermon 11,
poetry.
According to the codes of Mephala, there is no difference between the theorist and the terrorist.
Yes,
and I spent a lot of time talking about that in the commentaries.
That's Sermon 11, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 11.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the most cherished desire disappears in their hands. This is why Mephala has black hands. So her hands are black because she can eradicate desire. So what do we know about ego death?
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah. Pseudonyms.
So in order to perform ego self-separation, in order to truly connect with your inner self, you have to remove your ego and desire from your ego. Enlightenment can only happen without desire, which is one of the reasons why the Buddhists say that enlightenment happens when you least expect it. It only happens when you're not trying to do it. And
although there's also another reason for that. It's again the idea of I always kind of pictured them, those black hat. They weren't just black; they were burned.
Oh,
that's how I always took those, because it was the notion of it was destruction. It was that Mephala was taking everything away. You could get it's both that mixture of life and death, sex and secret murder, encompasses dealing with everything and ditching absolutely everything. And I was going to go somewhere else with this. It will come back to me.
Oh yeah. So so it's important that in the 36 lessons, it's important to remember that Mephala's destruction that she's wielding is one that is capable of eradicating desire. This is also an attribute, speaking to your burned idea, this is also supposedly an attribute of the fire that Vivek discusses. That it burns, divine fire burns away desire. Which is a common theme in a lot of Hindu and Buddhist symbolism. The idea of a divine fire, that surrounds gods in Hindu depictions is a divine fire that does a lot of things depending on what god it's around, but frequently that it's showing that it's burning away desire. And gods live without desire is the idea. It's a little bit like that idea of when we were talking about the nature of a god way back in like early episodes. One of the things that we were talking about was the idea that a god exists or performs work without desire, which is a hard concept to align with watching Daedra do what they do.
I completely agree with that assessment. I thought of something different, like reading this through a more philosophical lens. I think of it more in the way that imagine a black widow spider. If desire is analogous to a sexual partner, then what is it that black widows do to their sexual partners? Yes, I desire you, but now you're dead. They always kill what they want, and so they never really get what they want because it's dead now.
Killing the thing that you love.
And so that's there's another bingo one right there. That's what I think of. So Mephala is always desiring something, being a goddess of sex, but that murder takes it away before anything fruitful can happen. And so maybe, black is often associated with mourning. So if Mephala has black hands, is she mourning the loss of her desire?
That's possible, yeah. Although, just kind of going along with that, just the symbolism of black as a color. Black absorbs everything. Black takes in every kind of light. So
let's see. It's
the idea of
it's associated with power, fear, mystery, strength, authority. Oh, I like that one. elegance, formality, death, evil, and aggression, authority, rebellion, sophistication.
Yeah, it depends. There's a whole bunch.
There's a lot. But I think specifically of mourning is we go to a funeral, we wear black. That's I mean, maybe that's more of a Western sort of thing.
But
I mean, who's to say that Mephala can't be a blend of Western and Eastern ideas? Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of what makes all this interesting in the first place.
Yeah. Plus, you've got if I remember correctly, I remember hearing somewhere that just looking at ESO, the set Mother's Sorrow, I seem to remember that's referring to Mephala in some way, shape, or form. That Mephala is the mother of that. So I have nothing necessarily to back that up, but I'm sure I heard it somewhere. So that connection with mourning is potentially there as well.
Yeah. Well, another thing that just occurred to me is, I mean, spiders are often associated with like a brood, right? So like a brood mother kind of thing. Yeah.
Because they have like thousands of children at a time. Yeah.
Yeah. So could the sex produce a brood that causes murder? I'm breeding my own assassins.
She did. She made the Morag Tong.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of, and I mean, I'm not saying that anything that you said about the ego death is. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I mean, there's no reason it can't be all of the above.
Yeah.
Because that's how fucking insane this shit is.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why we sit here and talk about it for hours.
Yeah. The ego death thing, it reminds me of some bits and pieces from alchemy as well, which is what I trailed off and forgot. Because the first stage of alchemy is Naigido, which
blackening.
is blackening.
That's a good point. I'm gonna have to remember that. That's really juicy.
Like a priming, of the hands.
It's also to release. Hands. It's to separate elements. I don't know how they would phrase it in alchemy. It would be some other mystical thing, but the idea was that you were separating elements by burning.
Separating desire by killing it. Which I mean that circles pretty well back to what you were saying.
So like what you would do is you would by burning. First off, it was called Nagito. It was symbolically you were burning things. You weren't always literally burning them. I mean, sometimes you were melting them or whatever, but you were applying fire often. Heat, yes, that's what it was. It was applying heat. And the heat is what separated, for example, the impurities from the purities, so that you could, because I mean the point from, I mean, alchemy for a long time had a lot to do with, it was trying to do a whole lot of things, but one of the things that it was eventually trying to do when it started getting really juicy and relevant to what we're talking about is creating like the Philosopher's Stone and the divine substance that can transmute one thing to another, etc. And that's the thinking in alchemical circles was that the Philosopher's Stone was a substance built of like a pure substance. It was the fundamental primal godlike substance that you could arrive at if you could just boil or melt or burn out all the impurities in something or anything or whatever, depending. Okay, great. Thanks,
Doc.
Well,
it depends. You had all the. It had all the. There was the various different stages were Naigido, Solutio, Coagulatio, and Rubido. So it was this. Naigido was the blackening, the preparation, and then the breaking apart. Solutio, rendering it down to a liquid. Coagulatio, bringing it all back together, and Rubido was the reddening, which was supposed to then produce the stone. If I remember my sequence correctly. And so the idea of the Dun having Mephala as one of the gates of tradition, as in the start of it all, is kind of key to that idea as well. It's again just rendering it down, getting rid of all those impurities, making it black and burning, which is a painful process, but it's the beginning of everything, which is what I don't know whether would you call tradition the beginning of everything in that sort of sense. I was kind of thinking, oh, that's kind of what tradition is, but tradition and beginnings, they're linked but antithetical.
Yeah, I would think tradition is the repetition of things.
Yeah,
so but you can also say that tradition is also the beginning of culture. Alejandro Jodorowsky said that the measuring of time is the beginning of culture. So I'm not sure how to answer that. That's just the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know. I'm also absolutely watching the Dark Heart of Skyrim reveal on my second monitor on the sly here. So
yeah, I want to get that Firefly on both my accounts. So I'm trying to get into my second account.
Daddy needs those drops. So I'm gonna alt back to this. Okay. So the only other thing I'd like to mention is that the Black Hands come up again in Sermon 31, and it's a repetition of the idea of being able to operate without desire. That's when Vivek writes in a journal or something in while wearing the water face, so that so you can understand truth and then write truth without desire. And then cover it up, so that no one will find it. And it's a very interesting sermon. It's gonna the comments on that are gonna be extensive. Also 25, the Sermon of the City is gonna be fucking complex. Yeah, that's right. Healed femur was the start of culture. That's right. Yeah, I remember that. So where the hell were we? Got way off, and now I'm thinking about Vivek again, like I always am.
Yeah, end of Black Hands.
I mean, it's kind of hard to separate the two here because there's a lot of interconnectivity between.
Well, that's all Vivek's fault.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely.
Mephala didn't need that.
No,
all that freaking drama. So let's talk a little bit about artifacts. Famously for Skyrim players, Mephala gives you one of the more interesting artifacts, I think, the Ebony Blade, which I think is really cool. And really great for when you're trying to do... the Holy Mountain should be bingo square. That's a good idea, Captain. And so one of the interesting thing about the Ebony Blade is that it does additional damage if you kill people who trust you. And one of my biggest complaints with Morrowind and Oblivion especially, and also Skyrim, is that it's very hard to play an evil character, or it can be hard to play an evil character. Morrowind, it's probably the easiest because then you can just go, well, evil characters do slavery, and then you can just play a Telvanni. But but one of the things that I like about the Ebony Blade is that it gives you that opportunity, and from a gameplay standpoint, it's really important to entertain the proclivity of some players to play absolute bastards. And from a design standpoint, it's a giant pain in the ass, because the easiest thing in the world to design from a gameplay standpoint is to design a game for a player who likes to go out and solve problems. And that's, I mean, it can be rough to always offer players an evil route when it's way easier to just give players the option of being selfless or incredibly selfless, or like selfish but still doing the right thing. It's chaotic good or lawful good.
Yeah.
The
problem is then you have difficulty starting quests for evil players. You can be an absolute git. Once you've by denying someone something, once you've started on a quest line,
right?
But getting people to start doing something bad is
while being
really
bastards
hard.
Is really hard, because depending on how you're playing your character, if you're playing it chaotic evil or whatever, then your even chaotic good for that matter, your inclination is going to be like, no, I'm not solving your friggin' problems. Are you kidding? I got better things to do. I'm important.
Yeah.
I go, look at this ebony armor. Do you think this shit was cheap? I'm not gonna catch your sheep for you. Oh, stupid.
Yes, which makes it difficult for unless we're going to say that Mephala kind of masters the art of doing something while appearing to do nothing and actually doing nothing all at once.
Oh, the Tzeentch approach then. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was more going off Kraken, but that's a fantastic book. Yeah, China Mieville. It's basically it's a book where the where essentially a bunch of Cthulhu cultists break into the Natural History Museum and steal a giant squid skeleton, or a giant squid corpse,
Wow.
and everything that is. And everything that kind of comes along with that. It mucks around with all sorts of occultist ideas and stuff, and just with its tongue firmly in its cheek. And one of the things they come up with that is that the squid is important because it is both moving and not moving at the same time. It appears to be doing something and not.
Huh?
That. Yeah. That.
What?
Yeah. It's powerful because it can do something without appearing to do something.
The Futurama idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where God tells Bender, when you're doing things right, it's when people don't think you're doing anything at all. Yeah. Which was the way I used to do system administration. It was the only thing I was good at was doing things without people knowing I was doing something.
Yeah.
Or not doing anything. Okay, I'm going to bookmark this book. It looks really freaking good.
It is hilarious and fantastic.
Kraken by China Melville.
Yep.
Or Mieville.
Yeah, everything he writes is fantastic. I will recommend every book he has ever written and the books he is yet to write without reservation. He is marvelous.
I have to say, he has a name that definitely does not sound real.
Yeah. That helps.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I see Mephala kind of operating. I don't know quite where that thought came from, but she's kind of the one that's pulling the strings and not really doing much and appearing to be powerful because, oh hell, we're getting back into physics here. That while you're working, you are generating power. When you've stopped working and you hold potential energy, you are powerful in the physics sense, if I remember the terminology correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mephala being that potential engine, because she can do all this stuff without expending any kind of energy on what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it enhances what she is and how she can work. Again, all without not moving, and I entirely pulled us away from the Ebony Blade. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. I think we're basically done. I mean, I was just commenting that it's a great gameplay procedure. And
if we want to go back into her relics, there's still the Ring of Khajiit we haven't talked about.
Oh yeah,
the Ring of the Khajiit. Yeah. So,
yeah, which is weird because it's more associated with Regine than it is with her.
Right. Well, it was something that he used, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
But it was something that she made for him? Do I have that right?
I don't think she made it for him. I would be shocked and appalled if Regine was ever given anything. He's probably stolen everything he ever owned. But...
Yeah. Oh, I see. It was Regine who used the ring's powers to make himself as invisible, silent, and quick as a breath of wind. It's a ring that when you put it on, it makes you invisible, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was back when they were doing some very, very Lord of the Ringsy ideas, I'm sure.
Yeah, Sauron would like to know your location.
Yeah. Sauron has joined the chat. Yeah. Boromir has joined the chat. All right.
I mean, I've got some headcanon-y things I want to talk about with Mephala.
Okay.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the Spiral Skyne first of all, because I want to know what on earth is going on with that place.
Well, have we been to it yet in ESO?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have.
Yes.
I've been there
briefly in the Somerset.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we also traipsed through the Fields of Regret too.
But it's also a map of it's the Erebus in miniature. It's the tower. It's the tower and the wheel. She has. Hang on, where are we? This is the book. Rumors of the Spiral Skyne. In Oblivion, you keep your secrets, and the secrets of all those entangled in your webs of subterfuge and semblance. The spiral skyne is your realm, and like Nirn, in its center is a tower, the pillar place of Mephala, whose true name is too awful to be uttered. Spun round this pillar like spokes are the 8 strands of the skyne, to each its own place, and to each space its sin. Which is both equating Daedra with sin, which I know was an old thing that happened in Daggerfall era type stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also, why on earth does the Spiral Skyne have this construction in it? What's Mephala's association with the wheel, apart from the fact that it's also a very simple web?
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, I've got an easy answer that is the first one that comes to mind, which is that Mephala, like all Daedra, is still in Mundus or near Mundus because of a fascination with it, which therefore means that Mephala is capable, if not in one way or another, capable of understanding the wheel and tower structure. Because Mephala can view it from like externally, and we've sort of touched on this before, that because a Daedra can view the wheel and even for that matter understand the secret, at the center of the wheel, and do all the things that are necessary for Chim and etc., doesn't mean that they've attained that state, because philosophically it makes metaphysically it makes a lot more sense that Chim is only a state that is able to be attained by mortals. Or in other words, people who possess souls that have suffered through the cycle.
Although I would also say that they're not necessarily outside the wheel. They're the gaps in the spokes. But
okay, fair. That's a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, well done, Baka. You'll interpret etc. as Amaranth. Oh, I don't think that counts.
Yeah.
Stretch.
Dr. Nightstone has brought up a fantastic point. Every Daedra have their meta fascination.
Good point.
The enantium for Boethia, the grain maybe for Azura, the wheel for Mephala, Kalpas for Mora, and so on. So yeah, that's a fair point. So the Daedra are basically deep lore nerds. That fantastic, right? We solved the Daedra.
Yeah, that's
I think we'd need to take time to map out all 16, to be fair, but...
Well, I don't think we can we? Anyway.
For what? Mapping the princes to the wheel?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, to some aspect of Elder Scrolls metaphysics.
Yeah, Jonathan and I tried to do something similar to that. I've got it on the Telmora website. If you go there, telmoraindependent.net, go up to the top right, there's a more drop down. You can hit FAQ/Arbic Primer. And on that page there's an image I made. Trying to do the most in-depth wheel cosmology that I could. I included the House of Troubles, I included the Tribunal, or the Anticipations, and I tried to organize the princes in kind of a concentric wheel pattern in a way that they were next to someone who is close to their sphere and opposite someone who is not similar to their sphere, and which was really hard to do. I mean, we probably went through 5 or 6 iterations of me and Jonathan Sothis just spitballing back and forth. Well, I think Clavica's vial should be over here, but then that screws up this lineup over here.
Yep.
And so I mean, it took a while.
Well, one of the first things you want to do with Daedra is divide them up like the I Ching, and it just doesn't work because first off, there ain't enough of them.
Nope.
You need 64 of them.
I was gonna say 64. Yeah.
I hope this link works. I've been having issues with malware on my site, and I've been trying to clean it up.
Ooh, is it WordPress?
Yeah.
Okay, there's your problem.
But yeah.
I'll let you, boy. Web developer, come on. Come see your dad.
image right there is
but
the one I made.
There's also the just connecting to Mephala and ESO. She's also one of the conspirators to try and take over everything, which, for one thing, that feels way too direct for her.
Oh, does it? I don't know. It felt good that she was in it because she was kind of. I thought my thinking was that she was getting everybody else to do her work for her.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
You know.
Yeah, and then just kind of swoop in at the end and fail miserably.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll double cross you all. Oh, this was poorly thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, ma'am. Yeah, it was. Don't try and do this stuff while there's a player character in the vicinity. That's the lesson.
No. Absolutely not.
So, yeah, Threads of the Web Spinner, 27 pieces of enchanted clothing or jewelry associated with Mephala and Sanguine. There's an odd pairing.
Yeah. Because
Mephala sought to reward her devoted followers within the Morag Tong and turned to Sanguine to create them. Outsourcing?
Yeah. Because didn't she make them for Sanguine, or was it the other way around?
Other way around. But that's again the impression of kind of doing something while doing nothing. Again, going through it. It's kind of if you're powerful, you don't do it. One of your underlings does.
Seems all right. It's a little bit more Molag Bali for me, but whatever.
So then is that Mephala trying to assert superiority over Sanguine? I'm your better, so you need to do this for me.
Okay.
Possibly.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonder how much lunar currency that Sanguine got at the end of all that. But
yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine Mephala's got souls to spare, so.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, if we're treating Oblivion as a politics game, then absolutely Mephala is one of the key players, just simply because of what she is. Yeah, whether that means that she will ever be displaced from there is another question altogether. But that's one of the things that I've never really understood about Oblivion politics in general, if I'm honest. If we are assuming that the Daedra are conceptually based in their personalities and actions, then is there ever a different playbook that if they have however much time to experience it, then everyone will know what everyone else does and nothing gets resolved?
Yeah, it's a constant conflict. I mean, that's why reach heaven by violence is a thing, but that's you're just playing into the violence if you add violence to the violence. So I mean, and that makes me think of they keep carrying out the same cycles of that they're doing the same thing but expecting a different result, which is often cited as a sign of madness. Which Sheogorath is like, oh hey, I understand more now. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're not at Sheogorath yet, but that's where that led me.
Why does the Dark Brotherhood not know that they serve Mephala? Because maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Because that's an idea that comes up in the in-game book Fire and Darkness, I think.
Yes.
Kiss my wife goodbye.
Yes.
And it's one of the things that we it's one of those things in Elder Scrolls that a lot of people Elder Scrolls lore that a lot of people wonder when they start digging into Elder Scrolls lore. Frequently people will start getting into deep lore because they have a question that isn't directly answered by an NPC or even a book for that matter. And one of them is, who is the Night Mother? Like, a lot of people wondered that at the end of like the Dark Brotherhood quest in Skyrim, because you share a freaking coffin with her and it'd be nice to at least get the bitch's name. And and a lot of people wonder the same thing in ESO when the Dark Brotherhood quests came out. They were like, well, who's the Night Mother? Who am I taking orders from, etc. There have been a lot of books in universe that have speculated about who the Night Mother is. Many of them contradict each other. That's good. it's an opportunity for player agency, and that's excellent. All of them are also wrong because it's Vivek.
See, and I see it a little. I mean, this is something again that Sothis and I have talked about. That when Vivek assumed his role as the anticipatee of or the anticipated
there we go.
Mephala, he took over the Morag Tong. He usurped that role because the Morag Tong is such a huge part of Dunmer culture, and that's where the tribunal have ultimately displaced good Daedra is in the eyes of the culture.
Yeah.
So Vivek is now operating. I mean, it's a little headcanony, is now operating as the head of the Morag Tong, assigning, assassination contracts and whatever, honorable writs of execution.
Yeah, right.
And the Dark Brotherhood at their separation, they still worship Mephala, and because at some kind of back end subconscious level, they know it's Mephala. And they will not forgive their kin, the Morag Tong, for turning their back on her. And so, I mean, over the years, they just referred to her as the Night Mother, and then it kind of, I imagine, it devolved into, it's a separate entity now. And so, a lot of them don't realize that it's Mephala because they just kind of play into it, but. Does Mephala really care that it's her name that's being used? It's in her honor. Oh, stop. It's the deaths in her honor. Plus, what is more appropriate to the Prince of deceit and plots of murder and whatever to have two assassination guilds now attacking each other? I mean, two bands of her worshippers now fighting. That's it. That's the pinata at the party there, ladies and gentlemen. That's what she's here for it. And so I mean it just fits together so well.
Yeah, that feels. I'm not sure whether. I'm not. Yeah, I'm. We've had another ping from Dr. Nightstone saying that getting shit done is more important than names, ego death. But then again, that idea of acting yourself out is also part of that. So destruction and murder, it kind of leads me to the whole the 40k meme of Corn cares not whence the blood flows. So long as assassins are assassinating.
Yeah, you already mentioned Zinch.
Oh, I did. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
So long as assassins are assassinating.
Sorry.
So long as
somebody subbed.
So long as yes, thank you, Jane. So long as assassins are assassinating, then it doesn't really matter who they're killing, does it? Well, that's the thing. If we're assuming that Mephala is a schemer, do the schemes need to have an end? Because that's possibly one way we can almost distinguish between her and Boethia. That she's sex and secret murder, which is assassins, which is scheming and sneaky and but
please always do that voice.
But why process when I can do so many other ones?
It's the reason why this. But obviously, that's why Mephala sounds like that. She made the ring,
Yeah, she did make the ring that turns people invisible.
Her own, her precious.
Yeah. Stop it, Patrick. You're scaring him.
Yeah, but it's that idea of that. She's not necessarily connected with plots and end goals in that way. It's just secret murder. It's just sneaking up to someone and stabbing them. Never mind if you actually meant anything by it. It's if we're going with the whole ego death thing, it's probably better if you don't.
Yeah.
Then. So yeah, it's not like Mephala really needs a plot.
Yeah, but she's
just
gonna.
does.
Yeah, because they just happen. Yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't need the plot. She just knows how to fuck with the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She pulls the thread over here. Someone dies over there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's part of the universal plot though, because sex and begetting.
Well, everybody is. Yeah. I mean, but actually, that's an interesting point. It's one of their. Oh, are they doing it now? Yes, they are. Yay!
Yep.
Okay.
We picked a really poor time to do this.
Okay, yeah, I know, right? I seriously, I was almost like we're gonna start late or something.
Yeah.
Is that? Did they? Oh, okay. They own Markarth. That's cool.
Yeah, look at that. There's Markarth. Wow.
Yeah, and it's all Reachman-y.
Ooh.
I like it.
Ooh. That's really cool. Okay,
It is really cool.
I'm really excited for this expansion.
Can you tell?
Yeah, I'm really, really hyped for it. Oh, good, and they're bringing back the all blue underground stuff.
It must be adding a chunk to Blackreach.
Slaughterfish skill line hashtag.
Are we supposed to hashtag giveaway or something here?
I have no idea.
Who knows? One person does it, and then it's just.
And then everybody does it. Yeah, that's how Twitch chat works.
Yeah.
Will I stream it? It's on right now, Baka. I literally. Also, I don't know if I have permission to restream it, so I'm not gonna. I'm just not. You know. It's better safe than sorry. Yeah. I know, right, Johnny? I want more good Reachman lore. They've been doing really good, but they need to continue to do really good. They've been Oh, am I playing ESO? I'm always playing ESO all the time. Do I play on stream? No, I don't know. I tried the regular streaming thing, and it's not for me. I don't have the energy. I'm an old man. I'm 45. I can't be doing that shit.
45?
Yeah.
Oh,
and so no, I can't. I'd be nice, but I can't. Having said that, I'm fully expect to be like frickin' Cyberpunk will come out and I'll be able to glued to this computer streaming to like one person and yeah. And there's a Bork.
Yeah, he borked.
So I don't look a day over 44. Why, thank you, Captain. My goodness.
I swoon.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Now careful. Now Captain's gonna try and kill you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let me see, anything else we need to talk about with Mephala? I feel like we've covered a lot of stuff.
There's a bit about duality that I could get into.
That's where I was heading. The comparison between we did this for Mara and Dibella, but the difference between sex and reproduction. And something that I suggested in the New Whirling School, the idea of sex without desire. Not as a mechanical thing, but as or possibly as a mechanical thing, but as a the idea of possibly mating or reproduction without desire, and like as a biological imperative, and then the idea of shit. Now I can't remember it anymore. It's been a minute since I wrote this stuff. I've been writing this damn website for like 20 years.
Well, are you looking for the difference? But are you looking for the difference between sex as reproduction and sex as the act, regardless of desire, in both cases?
I think it was the latter.
Yeah.
No, I wanted. Where are my damn? How does somebody get around this stupid ass website? Mephala on the Destruction of Terran Theory. Empty time. Empty space.
Which will be cut.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, to be honest with you, I'm reading what I wrote right now, and it's sex without lust and murder without fear. I don't really go into it. I should have expanded on this more. As a matter of fact, this essay in general is awfully short. I think I was writing for Reddit, and I was trying to keep it quick.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well,
there's the difference between fucking and having sex, sort of, Johnny. But the idea is that both of those things you just described, generally speaking, involve desire in some kind. The idea is that one of the ideas, but I remember what it was. I was trying to forward the idea of the difficulty in separating those two. So it was a little bit like a minor miracle. It was the idea of performing murder without fear, which is very hard to do because murder being a negative act is and I'm not talking about destruction, I'm talking about murder. So being a negative act, all negative acts are created from fear. For all negative emotions stem from fear. And so the idea of being able to perform an act that requires a negative emotion but without having that negative emotion is effectively impossible and therefore a miracle. It's the realm of divinity, right? And it's the same thing. Yeah, you got it. And so it's the same thing with sex. The ability to perform sex without desire is another... because you know, I mean, aside from the biological, like mechanical inability to perform without desire, and I don't mean desire for the person that you're mating with. I mean desire at all is incredibly difficult. I mean, really, when you get down to it, I mean, in a very Crowley-esque way, the idea of doing anything at all without desire is incredibly difficult. So. But that is the a miracle of divinity or pharmacology. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although
okay.
That almost brings me back to the whole kind of theorist versus terrorist idea, because terrorist is an incredibly loaded word.
Yeah.
So you're talking about very specific types of destruction.
It's destruction with the intention of causing terror. Yeah.
So yeah, if we're trying to associate Mephala with that sort of death, or with a disconnect from that, I'm not sure whether that was intentional. Maybe.
Well, that's actually something I just realized is that I think the definition that I assigned to the terrorist in the 36 lessons is not it's not one of a person who does destruction for terror, for the purposes of terror. It's somebody who wields or encourages or utilizes terror.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily have to involve destruction or warfare or anything. It's just somebody who works with the idea of fear or terror, you know? And that's important specifically for the sermon that it's mentioned in, which is 11, I think. Wasn't it 11?
Yes. Right, Stuart talks about that theorist and terrorist.
Cut off both your hands before, there's no difference between a theorist and a terrorist. 14, 13, 12, 11. There's no difference between the theorist and the terrorist. Yeah, the idea being that I'm actually going to find that sermon right now because I don't want to speak incorrectly and contradict myself.
You are allowed to change your mind.
Yeah, great, okay, I didn't actually write anything useful there.
Okay.
Well, I got to go back and do something about that.
Yeah, I always kind of read it as the idea of theory as doing violence to reality, because it's saying reality is like this. But that's not really related to Mephala, so we're going to derail horribly.
Okay, so the idea is that the no difference between a terrorist and a theorist, even the most cherished desire disappears in their hands. It's the idea being that a terrorist can destroy anything, all desire, anything that you desire. And a theorist can destroy anything how?
Perceptions of things.
Right.
Yeah, by showing it not to be the case.
Yeah, by I guess you could say by science, by explaining away.
Yeah.
And okay. But I definitely need to go back to that sermon. Which I promise I will do as soon as I'm done writing the rest of them.
Did you know that? Did you know that Lehman Tuttle keeps bees? I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, he mentioned it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Which I'm absolutely not stalking him.
He's been tweeting about it for a while.
Yeah. Oh, has he?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Lehman Tuttle's the guy you want to hit up for mead, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Well, we got 18 seconds until ESO Live starts.
Yeah. Hey, have we finished talking about Mephala?
I think we have.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Everybody go watch Bethesda. I'm going to host them like they'll notice. How the fuck do I do that even?
Yeah. I'd work that out off stream. I think we better sign off and be done.
Yeah.
So hang around and things will happen, but yes, we will see you in 2 weeks when we are talking about who.
Yep.
I cannot remember, even though I've seen the calendar. Meridia.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna try and host Bethesda, and we'll just see what happens.
Going for darkness and blackness to light. Bye.